The store was already supposed to be closed, the metal shutter halfway down and rattling in protest as the young cashier, barely 20 and exhausted from a double shift, fumbled with the register under the harsh fluorescent lights, her hands shaking not just from fatigue, but from the instinctive fear that came when the night grew too quiet and the street outside went empty, because that was when trouble usually came. And tonight it came riding on laughter that was too loud, boots that scraped the pavement like they owned it, and voices that had already decided she was weak before they even saw her face. 3 men, hooded and swaggering, pushed beneath the shutter before she could stop them, mocking the closed sign, circling the counter like wolves testing a fence, asking stupid questions, knocking over a display on purpose, leaning too close, breathing beer and cruelty, while she tried to stay professional, tried to stay calm, unaware that deeper inside the store, behind a door marked "Employees Only," the low murmur of voices, the clink of coffee cups, and the quiet presence of something far more dangerous than fear waited in silence. The thugs laughed when she asked them to leave, laughed harder when one of them blocked the exit, telling her she should smile more, telling her she should be grateful for attention, telling her how late it was and how nobody would hear her if she screamed. And that was when the store seemed to hold its breath, because fear has a sound, and so does courage. And somewhere beyond the aisles of snacks and shelves of motor oil, men who had ridden hundreds of miles together, men bound by loyalty forged on asphalt and blood, stopped talking, stopped drinking, and started listening. The cashier's voice cracked as she reached for the panic button beneath the counter, only for one thug to slap her hand away, his grin widening as power intoxicated him. And in that moment she thought of quitting, thought of her mother waiting at home, thought of how unfair it was that working late to survive could feel like a crime. And the thugs leaned closer, close enough that she could smell their breath, close enough that the threat became physical, real, and irreversible, until a sound echoed from the back of the store, a heavy door opening slowly, deliberately, the kind of sound that makes predators turn their heads without knowing why. And one of the thugs scoffed, muttering that it was probably just another scared employee, unaware that the night had just changed sides. The door opened wider, boots hit the floor, one pair, then another, then many, and the laughter died inch by inch as leather vests emerged from the shadows, stitched with patches faded by sun and rain. Eyes steady and unblinking, men built like consequences. And the cashier realized with a shock that the bikers who had stopped earlier for coffee, who had joked quietly and tipped generously, who had asked politely if they could rest a while because the road had been long, had never left at all. When Baker stepped forward, his voice calm, low, almost gentle as he asked, "Is there a problem here?" And the thugs froze, calculating too late, suddenly aware of the weight of numbers, of silence, of the way real danger doesn't shout. It arrives quietly and stands its ground. The cashier felt something, unfamiliar rise in her chest, hope, and if this story has your heart racing already, if you want to know what happens when bullies meet brotherhood, make sure you subscribe to the channel now, because what comes next is the moment everything turns. The air grew heavy as the bikers filled the space without rushing, without threatening, simply existing with a presence that told the truth louder than fists ever could. And the thugs, who moments ago had owned the room, suddenly found themselves small, their bravado draining away as one biker locked eyes with the man who had blocked the exit, not with anger, but with something, colder disappointment, and said quietly that nobody was leaving until the young woman said she felt safe, a sentence so simple it felt like law. One thug tried to laugh it off, muttering excuses, claiming it was all a joke. But jokes don't make people tremble, and jokes don't leave. Fingerprints of fear on a cashier's wrist, and the biker leader noticed those fingerprints, his jaw tightening just enough to show that patience had limits. The cashier found her voice again, stronger now, telling them she wanted them gone, telling them they weren't welcome. And that was all it took. Because brotherhood listens when the powerless speak. And the bikers moved, not fast, not violent, but absolute, guiding the thugs toward the door like adults escorting misbehaving children. Each step stripping away the illusion of control the thugs had come to enjoy, until the night air swallowed them and the shutter slammed down for good. The sound echoing like a verdict. Outside, sirens approached, called by someone who understood that justice works best when witnessed. And the bikers waited, because real strength doesn't run when things get complicated. Inside, the cashier collapsed into tears she'd been holding back all night. And one biker gently placed a bottle of water on the counter, another cracking a quiet joke about how the coffee had gone cold anyway, reminding her that kindness doesn't need permission. When the police arrived, statements were given, truth was told, and the thugs learned that intimidation has consequences when courage stands together. And as the bikers finally prepared to leave, engines rumbling like distant thunder, the leader looked back at the cashier and told her something she would remember for the rest of her life, that she wasn't weak, that asking for help was strength, and that no one gets to decide her worth but her. The bikes disappeared into the night, but the silence they left behind was different now, safer, warmer, earned, and the cashier locked the door with steady hands, knowing that sometimes heroes don't wear uniforms, sometimes they wear road dust and loyalty, and sometimes they're already in the room when you think you're alone. Stories like this remind us why community matters, why standing up matters, and why sharing these moments keeps them alive. So if this story moved you, inspired you, or reminded you that good still exists, subscribe to the channel, because every subscription helps bring more stories of courage, justice, and unexpected heroes to light.